Well, hello, and thank you for coming to the talk today. And we're going to talk a little bit about unlocking the agentic future. And really what this talk is about is, obviously in software development, people are using AI more and more. And the big question coming up for a lot of our customers is, how do we maintain trust? Because obviously we're seeing good gains, first order gains, but as we think about downstream impact and total cost of ownership, there's a little bit of a question mark. So that's what we'll go through today. Before I get started, by show of hands, how many people know JetBrains? Great. And by show of hands, how many people use a JetBrains IDE? That's what I like to see. Great. So for those of you who don't know us, basically we're trusted by 15 million developers around the world that represent 300,000 organizations. We've got 2,700 employees globally, and we're headquartered in Amsterdam. A little bit about myself, Chris Kang. I'm head of product here at JetBrains. I've been with the company since about January, and I've done a number of things. Feel free to scan the QR code and connect with me, or find me after the talk, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Okay, great. So the first slide here is really about adoption, right? So in our latest survey, what we're finding is that 90% of developers that we surveyed are now using AI. And what's interesting is that 65% of that 90% is actually using AI pretty heavily, right? But there's a little bit of cognitive dissonance here in that only 30% of the people who use it don't actually trust the output, right? And so if you actually look at the data and you see people by seniority level, a lot of it is the more senior engineer you are, the less you actually trust the output, because you're seeing a lot of, I don't want to call it slop, but you're seeing some inconsistent quality in the code that you're reviewing from maybe your team, right? All right. So we'll touch on trust in a little bit, but first I want to talk about AI capabilities. So maybe some of you are familiar with this chart. This chart is from a research group in Berkeley, California called Meter. And what this chart shows you is the quickly advancing capability of AI. So what you have on the y-axis is time to complete a task, and on the x-axis you have time. And so if you look at this chart, and just so you're aware, this is log scale. So if you look at the year 2020 here, you'll see that state of the art was a model could finish a 4-second task at 50% success rate, right? So it wasn't very capable in 2020. But if you fast forward to 2025, now your most capable model, your state-of-the-art model, can do a 1-hour task at a 50% success rate. And so what's interesting about this curve is that the trend really hasn't broken. And if you listen to the industry experts who are creating this model, they don't expect this trend to end. And so what that means for all of you is that every 7 months, you should expect AI capabilities to double, right? So in the next 7 months, we should see state-of-the-art AI be able to complete a 2-hour task at 50% success rate. All right, so enough of the theory. What does that mean for us in practice? So what that means in practice is, very quickly, the way we're using AI and software development is changing rapidly, right? So even if I think about how I was using AI in January of this year, is vastly different than how I'm using AI now at the end of the year. So in January, I'm at the sort of lower left of this chart, where really I'm using AI for single line code completion. I'm using AI for chat assistance, right? So maybe I want to look at ask some questions about documentation that's on the web, and chat gives me a single entry point into being able to do that. Midway through the year, we see this proliferation of CLI tools, right? So now I'm starting to use agents in CLI, using multiple tabs for multiple different agents. And increasingly where we're moving to is using agents within the editor locally, right? So I send the agent off to do a task while I'm doing something else. The agent comes back to me when it's done, and we collaborate on that work over time. So if you keep following this trend, what's going to happen next, right? So the next step here is probably going to be hybrid human-agent teams, where you and I might be a team of humans here, but we want to collaborate with agents that are working remotely and work across our tool chain, so we're working as a team to really unlock productivity. And then if you're really bullish and you go all the way to the top right-hand corner, right hand here, it's not inconceivable that we'll start to see at some point autonomous agent teams that are building software, right? And it doesn't have to be the case that they replace humans, maybe they augment human teams just to deliver software faster or more software over time, right? Okay, so to make that concrete, I just give you a couple snapshots here. On the left-hand side, you'll see this is IntelliJ. This is our model selector. And basically, in the chat window, I'll pick a model of choice. And what I was doing in January was really saying like, hey, tell me a little bit about this code base that somebody else wrote, give me some context about it. I might ask the model about a particular framework. I might ask the model to create a code snippet for me and then insert that code snippet. So that was, remember, this is like January of this year, right? Which isn't too far ago, while ago, is 11 months ago. And then if you look at the, again, my right, my right over there, I cloned Karpathy's NanoGPT repo, and I've been sort of modifying it. And here, in this case, I'm working with 4 or 5 different agents, right? So I'm working with Claude, I'm working with Jules, I'm working with Junie, which is JetBrains' proprietary agent. I'm working with Cursor's BugBot. Maybe it's Cursor Review, I forget. Anyway, the agent does the code review, and I'm also using Codex, right? So this is kind of a radical shift. In about 11 months' time, I'm going from short iteration cycles in the chat window to actually orchestrating a set of agents to actually build out my projects. I'm not actually, in this case, writing a lot of the code. All I'm saying is, hey, I want to, for example, add direct preference optimization to this particular machine learning model, and the agents are going off and doing that. I'm asking another agent to review that code and make sure that it conforms to the standards, and it's done that for me, right? Okay. There was a survey done recently by the company DX that was acquired by Atlassian. Some of you will have known that. And basically, they surveyed a number of companies and developers. And what this chart shows you is, maybe not so surprisingly, is the more often you use AI, the more self-reported gain you get, right? And the important word to key in on there is self-reported, right? So the way to read this graph is, basically, if I use AI daily, I'm self-reporting that I'm saving 4 hours per week on average, right? If I'm using AI weekly, not daily, but weekly, I'm saving per week roughly about 3.5 hours. And this is self-reported, right? So why do I mention that? Well, I found this funny picture of this principal engineer on LinkedIn. And it totally cracked me up when I read this post. And basically what the post says is, the principal engineer is, the reason why he has his head in his hand is, he said he's midway through doing a code review of one of the junior engineers when it dawns on him that actually this is AI generated code, right? And so why does he have his head in his hand? Because he's worried that he's going to do a very detailed code review, send it back to the junior engineer. The junior engineer didn't write the code, so they don't understand the feedback. And they're going to probably feed it back into the AI, generate AI code again, and then give it back to the principal engineer, and they're never going to break out of this vicious cycle, right? So if you go through the chain of reasoning here, if this is done at scale, and all of your junior engineers, for example, are using these code generation tools, and you don't have a principal engineer to guard your code base, what's it going to do to the quality and the consistency of your code base over time? The next question down is, how much time is it going to take you to maintain this code base over time? And then the final question for CTOs and VPs is, what is your total cost of ownership over time, right? So the way to think about that is, with CodeGen, maybe you get some productivity gain as a first order effect, but when you look at the second, third, fourth, nth order effect, maybe you have higher total cost of ownership, right? So it's something to think about. So the key thing about this talk is about, okay, as we use more AI, how do we actually not decrease trust, right? We want to use more AI, but we want to keep trust. And so this is something that a lot of enterprises are coming to JetBrains and asking, because obviously they are using these other code gen tools, and they're asking JetBrains, how can you help us clean up some of the mess, right? And so we really think about using AI in this framework, and it's really 4 fundamental building blocks, right, starting from the bottom. So number 1, starting from the bottom, is really about governance, right? So if you're going to use AI, make sure that you have the right governance in place. Who should be using it? How should they be using it? How much of it can they use? Are you sure that you have the cost control in place? Number 2, if you think about the building block on top of that, is how do you make sure that you're specifying the intent well and then preserving that intent through the life cycle, right? So, you know, when you talk to some companies, the AI is not magical. The AI can't read your mind. So if you don't specify the requirements really well, maybe some of you have experienced this, the AI will go off the rails. And it's not because the AI is doing the wrong thing, it's just you haven't specified your intent very clearly. The other problem is maybe up front you have specified your intent, but you're not preserving that intent through the life cycle, right? So one way you could do that is make sure that your tests reflect the intent that you want from the software. Okay, the next building block up is the right tools for the job. So now that you know what your intent is and it's properly governed, now it's time to select your tools. And it's probably not going to be the case that you're going to use one AI that rules them all, right? It's probably going to be the case at Equilibrium where you're going to use many different tools for many different jobs based on the constraints you have, right? So all of us who are in the business are faced with constraints like time, money, comfortability using some of those tools, right? And so you're going to have to make a selection based on those constraints. Then the final building block on top of that, maybe it sounds obvious, but not a lot of people are doing it, is that you have to be pretty rigorous about how you're experimenting and measuring, right? So if you're just spending AI and relying on self-reported gain, go back to my slide before, right? It may be that you're increasing the total cost of ownership over time. And so if I think about 2 case studies, 2 of our customers, which is Meta and Amazon, they are using this framework, right? And so if you think about Meta, their key optimization metric that they're looking to optimize is diffs per developer month. Why are they using that metric? They're using that metric because it correlates with a product metric like monthly active users, which correlates with a business metric like revenue, right? So they've found that the correlation is something like 0.7 or above, and that's why they're trying to maximize for this. Now, when they think about which tools do they use, they're both using a combination of in-house tools and third-party tools, and they're experimenting with all of them, right? And so if you look at the impact of control versus treatment, they have different teams who adopt AI and different teams that don't adopt AI. They're seeing about a 6 to 12% lift in using AI, right? Very similarly, Amazon is using a metric called cost to serve software. And that is the metric that they want to minimize. And again, they're using a mix of in-house tools and third-party tools. And including the cost of AI spend year on year, they've been able to decrease the cost to serve software by 16%. So again, I think the thing to think about, there's kind of 2 takeaways to think about here. One is that it's not a 10x gain, it's a modest gain, but it's a material gain that will compound over time. And then number 2 is there's a lot that's left to be said that's not measured in the metrics, right? Specifically, they're learning a lot about what works and what doesn't work. And when you learn that, that learning compounds over time because you're going to stop doing the things that don't work and you're going to double down on the things that do work, right? Okay, so how is JetBrains thinking about all of this? Well, going back one slide actually, because I actually tried to update this deck, but I didn't make the cutoff of timing. There's a study by Stanford that you should all look at, and basically Stanford has this 4x4. In the 4x4, they have task complexity on the y-axis, and they have greenfield repos versus brownfield repos. And they try to quantify how much lift you will get from AI in this matrix. And no surprise there, basically, if you have a greenfield repo, that's low in task complexity, you're going to see about a 35% lift by using AI, according to Stanford. If you look at a brownfield repo with high complexity, your gain is between 0 to 10%. So it's de minimis. So why do I tell you this? Well, if you're a CTO or a VP of engineering here, the thing you want to think about is AI spend is an investment. Make sure that you're investing it in the areas where you're going to get the most return. So if you have a greenfield, low complexity repo, that's where you want to put your spend. Where we are in the trend for AI capability today, probably not in brownfield, high complexity, right? All right, so how is JetBrains thinking about all of this? Well, obviously our customers are coming to us asking the same thing. And so we want to follow the same framework, right? So we want JetBrains users in their favorite IDE to be able to do the things they've always done, augmented with AI. And so the first step, if you go back to my framework, is thinking about the building block of governance. We want to make sure governance is in place and that the management team and the leaders know how AI spend is being used. So that's this governance piece. The next piece is about making sure intent is captured well, and we can't do that for our customers, but we can advise our customers to do that. And then number 3 is we want to offer a wide selection of tools. So we're very much an open platform. We're agnostic to whatever tool you want to use. In fact, a lot of enterprises we talk to say, hey, this team A wants to use Claude, team B wants to use Codex. And we want to make that readily available for our customers to do. And then we want to take you through your tool chain all the way to production, and that's where we're working towards. As one recent thing that we've done, we're working on a protocol with the editor company Zed, and it's called Agent to Client Protocol. And what that protocol allows you to do is work with all of these different agents, and they will work with the different editors seamlessly. So, for example, if I'm using IntelliJ and one of my partners is using Zed, but we want to collaborate with a Claude agent, if you conform to ACP, it all works seamlessly, right? And so we can collaborate as a team. And so actually I didn't get a chance to do a video of this, but this is a snapshot of what we will release on Monday, which is a number of agent providers that are conforming to ACP that you can use in our agent selector. So over time, what we want to do is add more agents that do this. And what that means is that as more editors adopt ACP, whatever editor your developers are using, they will be able to have a choice of agents. These agents will be able to operate over the editors and hopefully run through your tool chain. All right, so I've got 2 minutes left, and I was going to take some questions, but there's a couple of takeaways here from my talk here, right? So one, the agentic future is happening now. Basically, you're all probably sick of hearing about agents. That's all we've heard about this week in every session and every discussion, but agents are here to stay. Number 2 is, if you're going to use agents, let's guardrail them properly, right? Everything I talked about before. You don't want the principal engineer putting their head in their hands because all of the junior engineers are going wild with all of this code gen. It might cause downstream problems. Number 3 here is experiment and measure, right? So if you're not experimenting, if you're not measuring, how do you know you're getting return on investment for your AI spend? You don't. That's the reality, right? Last point here is, I have talked to some people here at reInvent whose teams aren't experimenting with agents. And for what it's worth, I think that's probably a missed opportunity, because the teams that are experimenting with agents today, they're compounding on the learnings over time, and they're going to get better, right? So as AI gets better, they understand better how to use it, they're going to get compounding advantage. So if you haven't started to use it, I encourage you to use it within your budget, but I think it's something important to do. All right, so I've got 1 minute left. Should I take one question, or what do you think?
Unfortunately, I don't think we have time for questions. But Chris, if you have some time, you can come over here to the side. If you have questions for Chris, JetBrains, feel free to ask him over here as we prepare for our next talk. Thank you so much, Chris.
Thanks, everyone.
Applause, folks.